My beloved child. Stop scrolling for just a moment. There is a reason your eyes found these words today instead of 1,000 others. Something has been quietly moving beneath the surface of your life, and heaven would not allow this message to pass by you without purpose. Listen carefully. Do not rush ahead. Stay until the end, because what is about to unfold has been hidden for longer than you realize, and every sentence brings you closer to a truth that has been waiting for the right moment to be seen. I have watched every silent tear you never explained to anyone. I have counted every night when you stared into the darkness, wondering why certain answers never arrived. Even when your lips smiled, I knew the questions your heart carried. You believed the silence around you meant nothing was happening. But silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes silence is where the deepest battles are fought. Sometimes the loudest cries are never spoken aloud. And today I am asking you to remain here because something extraordinary is beginning to come into the light. Do not skip this message. Stay until the end. Something far greater than coincidence has drawn you here. There is a story unfolding that you have only seen from one side. You have judged the empty spaces without knowing what filled them. You have interpreted distance without understanding the invisible storm behind it. The truth is more complicated than you imagined, yet it is also more hopeful than your fears have allowed you to believe. There is someone connected to your journey whose heart has become heavier with every passing day. They have carried a burden they never expected to carry. They have smiled while breaking inside. They have spoken ordinary words while hiding extraordinary pain. More than once they tried to convince themselves they could keep everything buried forever. More than once they whispered to themselves that remaining silent would protect everyone involved. Yet every sunrise has made the weight harder to bear. You may have wondered why certain conversations ended too quickly. Why messages felt incomplete. Why certain moments seemed filled with words that were never actually spoken. Those moments were not empty. They were overflowing with emotions that could not find the courage to become sentences. There is a difference between having nothing to say and being terrified of saying the one thing that could change everything. Pause here. Breathe in this moment. What you are hearing was meant to find you. Not because every detail reflects the future with certainty, but because stories sometimes illuminate feelings that people struggle to express. Let this message remind you that unseen struggles often exist behind outward silence. Continue listening with an open heart, because another layer is about to unfold. The one your heart keeps thinking about has spent countless moments replaying memories you believed they had forgotten. They revisit ordinary conversations that now feel sacred. They remember laughter that seemed small at the time but has become priceless in hindsight. Even tiny moments. The way your voice changed when you became excited, the kindness you showed without expecting recognition, the patience you demonstrated when nobody else noticed, have remained alive inside them. Yet there is something standing between what they feel and what they are willing to reveal. It is not simply fear of rejection. It is not merely uncertainty. It is something deeper. It is the belief that revealing the whole truth might forever change the life they know today. They have convinced themselves that silence is safer than vulnerability. They tell themselves tomorrow will be easier. Next week will be better. Another season will create the perfect opportunity. But tomorrow keeps becoming another tomorrow, and every delay quietly strengthens the prison around their heart. Stay until the end. Do not look away now. The next part of this story carries a revelation that may change how you understand everything that came before. There were nights when they almost reached out. Their hand moved toward the phone before pulling away again. Words formed inside their mind only to disappear before reaching the screen. They imagined every possible outcome. They imagined hope. They imagined disappointment. They imagined relief. They imagined losing the connection completely. Every possibility became so overwhelming that doing nothing seemed easier than risking everything. Many people mistake silence for indifference. Heaven knows better. Sometimes silence is simply fear wearing a disguise. Sometimes silence is love that has forgotten how to speak. Sometimes silence is a wounded heart desperately trying not to wound another. You have asked questions without speaking them aloud. Why did everything suddenly change? Why did the energy shift? Why did certain doors close just when they seemed ready to open? Why did hope appear so close only to feel distant again? These questions have echoed through your spirit more times than you realize. The answers did not disappear. They were delayed. There is a difference. Remember that. Delayed does not always mean denied. Unspoken does not always mean absent. Hidden does not always mean gone. There is a mystery unfolding behind what your eyes have been able to see. That mystery has been shaping events in quiet ways. Small coincidences were never entirely accidental. Unexpected reminders appeared for reasons you could not yet understand. Familiar songs, meaningful dreams, moments that made you pause without explanation. Whether you see them as symbolic or simply meaningful reflections, they have invited you to pay attention to what your heart has been trying to process. Do not skip. Stay with this message. Something important is still waiting ahead. The person connected to this story has carried a sentence inside their heart for far too long. It is a sentence they have rehearsed hundreds of times. They know exactly how it begins. They know exactly how it ends. Yet every rehearsal ends before the first word is spoken aloud. Courage rises for a moment, only to retreat beneath old fears they thought they had already overcome. They ask themselves impossible questions. What if it changes everything? What if I waited too long? What if forgiveness is no longer possible? What if honesty arrives after the opportunity has already disappeared? These questions have become constant companions. And every unanswered question has slowly become another stone added to the weight they carry. You have sensed pieces of this without fully understanding why. There were moments when your heart felt strangely restless for no obvious reason. Moments when someone unexpectedly crossed your mind. Moments when memories returned without invitation. Whether these moments feel spiritually significant to you or simply emotionally meaningful, they remind us that relationships often leave deep impressions long after conversations end. Listen carefully now. The painful truth they are hiding is not simply a collection of facts. It is a collection of emotions. Regret. longing, fear, hope, shame, love. Each emotion has wrapped itself around the others until separating them has become almost impossible. They no longer know which feeling arrived first. They only know they are exhausted from carrying all of them alone. Do not look away. Stay until the end. Because another layer is about to open. There have been moments when they looked perfectly fine in front of everyone else. Friends believed they were happy. Family assumed everything was normal. Strangers never suspected the storm hidden beneath calm eyes. They became experts at appearing unaffected. But appearances cannot silence the conversations that continue inside the soul after everyone else has gone home. Every quiet evening became another reminder. Every unexpected memory became another whisper. Every ordinary day carried extraordinary weight. The burden has reached a point where pretending is becoming harder than honesty. That is why this moment matters. Not because heaven forces anyone's choices. Not because every story unfolds the same way. But because there comes a season when truth becomes lighter to carry than silence. That season may be approaching. Can you feel the shift? Something is changing. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Steadily. Like dawn appearing before anyone notices the horizon growing brighter. You have spent too much time believing that unanswered questions define your worth. They do not. Your value has never depended on another person's ability to speak. Whether they find the courage tomorrow or much later, your kindness, dignity, and purpose remain unchanged. Never measure your light by someone else's silence. Yet even with that truth, there is still another mystery. The painful truth they hide is connected to a promise they once made to themselves. A promise born from disappointment. A promise created during one of the hardest seasons of their life. A promise that seemed wise at the time. But promises built from fear often become chains instead of protection. Those chains are beginning to crack. Slowly. Almost invisibly. They are realizing that hiding forever is costing more than honesty ever could. Still. One final obstacle remains. It is the obstacle they have never confessed to anyone. Not to friends. Not to family. Not even to themselves with complete honesty. This obstacle has shaped every decision they have made recently. It explains why they moved closer only to step away. Why hope appeared before disappearing again. Why certain words almost escaped before silence returned. Stay until the end. Do not miss what comes next. The story has not reached its most important moment. There is a reason this message arrived today and not yesterday. Timing often reveals what force never can. Hearts cannot be rushed into genuine courage, but they can slowly awaken to it. Sometimes the greatest turning points begin with nothing more than one honest realization. One decision. One conversation. One moment when fear finally loses its grip. That moment may be closer than anyone realizes. The one connected to your story stood at the edge of making a life-changing choice. Their heart urged one direction while fear demanded another. They believed no one could see the battle taking place inside them. But heaven saw it. Every hesitation. Every sleepless night. Every silent prayer. Every unfinished sentence. Every hope they buried before anyone else could notice. And just when they thought they could continue hiding forever, something unexpected happened. Someone said a single sentence they were never supposed to hear. A memory they tried to forget suddenly returned with overwhelming clarity. Everything they believed they had successfully buried came rushing back at once. For the first time in a very long time, they stopped running from the truth. And what they realized in that unforgettable moment is something you are not ready to hear, not yet. Because that revelation changes everything. And it begins with the first words they have been too afraid to speak. My beloved child. The silence lingered longer than anyone expected. In the stillness, it seemed as though time itself had paused, waiting for a single heart to gather the courage it had been searching for all along. This is a story about hope, fear, and the difficult choice between hiding the truth and finally letting it be seen. The person at the center of this story had spent so much time protecting everyone else's feelings that they forgot what it meant to be honest with themselves. Every day they wore a smile that looked convincing from a distance, but behind closed doors they replayed the same memories over and over, wondering whether one conversation could have changed everything. They remembered moments that seemed ordinary when they happened. The laughter, the small acts of kindness, the quiet understanding that needed no explanation. Those memories became brighter with time instead of fading away, and with every passing day they realized they had never truly left them behind. They whispered to themselves, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow came. Then another tomorrow. Then another. The words remained trapped inside. But something unexpected began to change. Instead of asking, what if everything falls apart? They slowly started asking a different question. What if honesty is the beginning instead of the end? That single thought refused to disappear. It followed them through busy mornings and restless nights. It appeared in quiet moments when the world finally stopped making noise. It reminded them that fear can delay the truth, but it cannot erase it forever. If you're still listening, stay with this story. The most important moment has not arrived yet. They began noticing things they had ignored before. A familiar place brought back forgotten memories. A simple song reminded them of promises they never kept. Even ordinary conversation seemed to carry unexpected meaning, as though life itself was gently encouraging them to stop running from what their heart already knew. For the first time in a long while, they stopped blaming circumstances. They stopped blaming timing. They stopped blaming fate. Instead, they looked inward. There they found not a villain, but a frightened person who believed silence was the safest choice. And that realization changed everything. Because once someone understands that fear, not love, has been making their decisions, a new path quietly begins to appear. Still, one final obstacle remained. It wasn't pride. It wasn't distance. It was the belief that too much time had passed. They wondered if apologies could still matter after so many unanswered moments. They wondered if kindness would still be waiting on the other side of honesty. They wondered if hope had already slipped away. Those questions echoed through every quiet evening. Yet deep inside, another voice answered with growing confidence. You will never know unless you choose courage. That simple sentence became impossible to ignore. As dawn broke on another ordinary morning, they reached for something they had avoided for far too long. Their hands trembled. Their heartbeat raced. Every excuse returned one last time, begging them to walk away. But this time, they didn't. They took one small step. Then another. The truth they had hidden for so long was no longer asking for permission to be spoken. It was asking for freedom. And just as they prepared to let those long-buried words finally leave their heart, a completely unexpected event interrupted everything. The story was about to take a turn that neither they nor anyone watching could have predicted.